whenever I've come across ego, it's been when there's an agent representing a buyer or a seller or landlord.
Yeah.
And I'm working with another agent. Do you know what? It's got smaller over the last few years.
I said
Guys, you're so immature.
I said ego.
Is that okay though? Because you're working for the seller?
I'm working for the seller, but also I'm thinking, right, if I call my client straight away with an offer, they're perhaps going to hold out for a price that maybe the buyer can't afford because they've offered so quickly.
You have, as an agent, you have to be a chameleon. You have to read the situation.
Comedian. Welcome to episode number 10 of the Three Intrapreneur podcast. That's right, we are now in double digits. Today, we're going to be speaking about the art of negotiation. Before I get started though, we've had some feedback, and that is about the fee. I think people would like it to be changed to a reminder instead of a fee, to be asked to share the podcast if you have gained anything from it, or to drop a comment and to like it and subscribe, of course. So thank you very much.
Yep.
With no further ado, what is negotiation?
Straight in. What is
Straight in.
negotiation?
What is the art of negotiating?
No, what is negotiation?
Getting what you want. In the crux of it, you know, getting what the desired outcome you set out for, whether that's for yourself on behalf of someone else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, getting what you want for the desired price that you want to pay.
Well, negotiating could be anything.
Not in always actually.
Are we specifically
Doesn't always
talking
have
about
to
real
be
estate?
it doesn't have to be a payment, does it? My little boy negotiates with me every day. He has no money. He always wins.
When he goes to bed.
When he goes to bed is like a constant negotiation. He's like a master of negotiating.
Brilliant.
But yeah, I suppose it's true. You don't have to. There doesn't have to be monetary. Doesn't have to be a monetary value. Doesn't have to be money involved in a negotiation, does there?
Just Googled it. It says a discussion aimed at reaching an agreement.
Yeah.
Discussion.
Yeah, probably could have started with
Usually
that.
a discussion or an argument?
Discussion or an argument.
Yeah. I suppose it depends who you're negotiating with. Okay, fine. Let's move on swiftly because I've got 19 questions to get through. So, give us an example of a good negotiation or of good negotiation. Who wants to go?
An example is in a scenario that we've had before, or just...
Yeah, or a theoretical or hypothetical situation
Well, I mean,
where it would be a good
I
negotiation.
assume a hypothetical scenario would be where both parties are happy with the deal.
Yeah.
Why don't you role play?
A win-win mind. No, I think Benji's right though.
Alex,
I think
keep this foot off the off the
role
podcast.
play?
The
No,
role
Why don't
play.
you role play like a good negotiation?
How
That'd
much
be
are
quite
you going
funny.
to charge?
No, look, I think Benji's right. I think there's something called like a win. It's a win-win mindset. Effectively, in a negotiation, you want both parties to feel like they've won. Because if one party feels like they've won and the other doesn't, then there's a higher risk during the sales progression or the secondary part after agreeing the value that something could arise. They feel like the other party has got one up on them, and they then might start to be a bit of a stickler on certain points.
Couldn't agree more.
You know,
and I often use that in negotiating. For example, let's use round figures and say the property is £10 million. I might say to my client, the seller, I could probably get you 10.5 million, but the buyer's going to be squeezed and they're going to be uncomfortable. The second something goes wrong with any of the paperwork, as you just said, if there's something wrong with a survey, they're more inclined to get cold feet and have a change of thought process. And they say, you know what? Maybe it's not worth getting that extra squeeze and pushing them to a limit that they're uncomfortable with. So I agree 100%.
Yeah, 100%.
But I would imagine a great scenario would be when both parties leave and they're happy.
Yeah.
It's the ideal situation.
Definitely.
Okay.
Both having one.
Good point. So an example of a good negotiation is to make sure both parties feel like they've won.
Yes. I think a win, yeah. They both want to feel like they're winning.
And that's where it comes down to the art of negotiating.
Yes.
As the role as the negotiator, it's your job to make them feel that they have won.
Yeah.
And, you know, we'll probably come on to it, but the art of negotiating is, I wouldn't say the word manipulating, but caressing the situation to get to the point where both parties are happy.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Thank you. What impact can ego have on negotiating?
Well, it can kill a deal.
Yeah.
I've had many deals killed over ego, and it becomes an ego where.
Can you tell us what happened?
I mean, in truth, there's been a few, where you just can't get the deal agreed, just purely because whether it be the seller, the buyer, it becomes an ego thing that I don't want to pay that. They don't want to be the one that concedes. They don't want to be the one that gives in or pays a bit more or takes a little bit off the asking price. Often if the price is, whatever the price is, and then they offer too low and there's no counter offer, but then the buyer doesn't want to bid against themselves, but the owner doesn't want to give a counter proposal, so then the buyer it just fizzles out.
Yeah.
There's a number of situations, but ego can play a massive part of it. And it then becomes not about the deal, it becomes about the principle.
Yeah.
And that's when you're in a tricky situation as the agent in the middle, and you try to diffuse it, and good negotiators can, and perhaps others can't. But that, I would say, is when ego gets involved, it becomes bigger than the negotiating, because you're dealing with often with cases where it's not a monetary thing for people. Some of our clients have a lot of money. It comes down to the principle, and then that's difficult to then get someone to change not just the price they're happy to accept, just their mentality going into it. And you got to, again, as the negotiator, you have to try and preempt that and know your client and know the buyer and try to steer clear of that.
Massively. I think a big ego kind of goes alongside emotion. It's the same thing. I think, emotion can be the killer of deals. Whenever I go into a negotiation for a buyer or a seller, we almost have our monetary limit. And that monetary limit is based around data, analytics, of what we are prepared to pay. And I almost say to the client, at that point, if we get to that point where we have to maybe go over that, don't let emotion play that part to be the major factor in then going above if you know it's not going to be a good deal. And that's the hardest part for a buyer or a seller, because emotion plays massive roles in this. And we as an agent then have to manage that emotional process for both sides. And it kind of goes in with the ego side. If someone's emotional about it and they're an estate agent and you're negotiating against that person, then they will just put roadblocks up to try and not do a deal with you. But that ultimately then is not working in the best interest for the client. So in any negotiation, you have to remove all emotion. You have to.
Yeah, and I guess further to that, talking about the agents, and obviously, as we know, we've touched on in various different podcasts, where nowadays at the top end of the market there is a third party representative that is looking after that potential buyer.
Is that what you've heard about the top end? From other people.
I have heard from people. And then you're not only having to navigate the potential egos of buyer and seller, you're then negotiating with another third party, and then there's potentially another ego.
Yeah.
If they're representing the buyer, they're going to want to get the lowest price possible for their client. Our job is to get the highest price possible. So then not only are we negotiating with the final party, there's the introducer as well. And it's learning the nuances of that.
In my experience,
100%.
that's when egos come in more. Not so much with buyers, it's more about principle.
Yes.
They should pay for this, or I shouldn't pay for that. Especially with lettings.
Yeah.
I shouldn't pay for the furniture removal. They should pay for this.
Yeah.
Also, like an asbestos survey once with the sale in Primrose Hill.
Okay.
That came up. It was about who should pay for it.
Yeah. Again, if going back to that first point, when you come to like an asbestos, like a survey, if there's a slight tilt in a buyer or a seller thinking that they haven't won, that's the type of thing where, again, then there'll be like price reduction. Someone's going to stay strong, and ultimately that will kill a deal.
True.
So all those little points and those nuances throughout that sales progression is so key.
But ego. Whenever I've come across ego, it's been when there's an agent representing a buyer or a seller or landlord.
Yeah.
And I'm working with another agent. Do you know what? It's got smaller over the last few years.
I said
Guys, you're so immature.
I said ego.
It's not a metaphor. We're talking about ego, right? Because you
Yes.
started laughing. You both started
Yes.
laughing. Yeah.
So you
know
say
what?
do you think that's because you're maturing and becoming
Yeah.
more experienced in real estate?
Yeah, and so I'm more secure in who I am and my experience now. I've got less of an imposter syndrome now because I know how good I actually am, what I do, and I have no ego. And if you have no ego, and then you're dealing with another agent who has, you can outplay them, you can outmaneuver them, and I kind of did do that with the deal I did in Little Venice. I won't get into it, actually.
Yeah.
Forget it.
Why?
I don't know, because I think he or she might listen to this, and I wouldn't rise to that. But I know that they never called me back when we were doing the deal together. They always wanted to speak to Daniel. I don't know what it was, and then they said a few things to Daniel about me behind my back,
Right.
which weren't necessarily true and whatnot.
Interesting.
And also to other people in the industry as well.
Yeah.
Which wasn't. It's not nice.
No, not at all. Not at all. Not at all.
But again, if that's part of it, and I'm sure again we'll come on.
That's
to
it. It's insecurity.
No.
That's
My
what I think.
Yes, but my point was, keeping ego out of it allows you to remain level-headed, and allows you to not get involved with.
But I think it comes down to insecurity, though, because if you're insecure, you're going to have a big defensive ego, and if you're insecure, you're going to talk rubbish about other people.
Yeah, I mean, there's never going to be someone of success or in power that's going to try to push you down.
Yeah,
they're the type of people that want to raise people.
Exactly,
it's people usually that are beneath you.
Growth mentality.
That wants to pull people down.
Exactly.
So someone from Daniel will never pull us down because he's from a position of in a good high up position.
Exactly.
Someone who's perhaps new in industry or not as qualified might want to pull you down, as you said. But I think ego is can be a killer of deals. Yeah. Not only
success.
Not only we're obviously talking about buyer, seller, third party introducer, lawyers. Lawyers' egos can get in the way.
Yes, good point. And also
that can
about
cause problems.
They try to justify their fees in a way.
Sure. They also, having to do their job.
Issues.
So again, in terms of negotiating, you said in terms of just real estate and getting the best price. Well, as a agent, as the representative of my client, whether it be for the buyer or the seller, it's my job to navigate the full picture, to negotiate with the lawyers as well. Because if they're being unreasonable with the inquiries they raise or not budging on certain points or not taking, a commercial view on certain things, learning how to negotiate with the surveyor and caressing certain situations. It's the full picture. 100%. It's not just agreeing the price. I actually think agreeing the deal is the easiest part. It's then the getting it over the line as the negotiator is the toughest part. So it's not just buyer seller, it's lawyers as well. And lawyers, as we've all experienced, can have big egos and won't want to budge. And then between the two lawyers, there's an ego battle. And it's like,
and
who's sometimes the tips. Sometimes when you do come up against someone and they've got an ego, as now we're experienced negotiators, you almost know how to then take some punches to feed that person's ego to keep the deal alive. Do you know what I mean? Like with a lawyer or an agent or something like that, you almost, like you said, you lure them into a full sense of security where they feel that they have got one over on you.
Yes.
And I'm like, I know what's happening, and I'm happy to take a couple of punches because I know at the end I'm going to land the last blow and I'm going to win the match.
Like,
but I'm all right to take
so big.
But it's true though. You're okay to take a little bit to know. Okay, I'll feed his ego. I'll feel like he's winning as long as it's the ultimate beneficiary to my client to get this deal done.
I agree.
I'm happy to be hit a few times if I know that I'm going to win the match.
That's it. Good. It would be good actually to get a lawyer at this table one day. Point number 4. Question number 4. Negotiating with different cultures can be complex. I think we'll all agree on that. What advice do you have for navigating this?
Travel. Travel.
What do you mean by travel?
Travel. Go and experience other cultures. Go to other countries. Spend time maybe not in the touristy areas, the local areas. Speak to people. Be inquisitive. Ask questions. When I went to Morocco, and we went to all the markets and everything. which kind of touristy, but also the locals are there, and that's where they live and breathe, and that's where they.
Did you negotiate in the market?
I did. Yes, not very well. No, I did.
You came back with 7 pairs of sunglasses.
You forgot clients watch this. Yeah. He was like, oh no, actually I did do well.
16
But
Gucci handbags.
it was interesting. We were walking through the markets and we stumbled across what was kind of a semi-auction house out in the open of leather. And the main auctioneer guy was walking around with, these massive layers of leather in his arm, was going around to all the bidders and showing it, and they were all bidding back and forth.
Yeah.
So just inquisitive in terms of, not just going to the touristy places. And, you learn a lot.
Yeah,
being around other people. Have fallen foul of just staying in my bubble for so many years and knowing what I know. But now I'm, trying to travel.
Yes.
Because there are cultures and nationalities that will negotiate differently, as we've experienced.
Give us an example.
Give you an example.
You're Jewish.
Yes.
Talk to us about Jewish people. How do they negotiate differently to an English British person, for instance?
Say that again. Sorry.
A Jewish person, would they negotiate differently to an English British person, for instance, like Ollie Ingalls is?
I mean, look, again, there's so many different nuances. So for example, in the Jewish world, there's Jews that will originate from the Middle East. Sephardi Jews in comparison to Ashkenazi Jews that will come from Eastern Europe. And they negotiate differently, coming from the Middle East and linking in with the Middle Eastern buyers that we deal with, as well as, Israeli buyers. They like to negotiate. They lowball. They are. I'm dealing with it at the moment, negotiating with a client from the Middle East looking to acquire 2 apartments. The bottom price that we got from the owner was just over £1 million per unit, and he wants to start lower. And I'm trying to explain that this is already the bottom price, but they want to go 10% below. So in answer to the question again, you need to think like, where are they from? So I've done many deals with buyers from Asia, from, China, Hong Kong. My buyers, the deals I've done from Hong Kong have been very direct. There's no, they're very respectful. Small nuances like liking the number 8 because it's a symbol of wealth. I did a deal, and part of the counter offer was, including an 8, and we closed the deal, and just so small things like that. But different people negotiate differently. Buyers from India might negotiate differently to someone from the UK.
But you travel to India now, so you can negotiate with India.
I haven't travelled to India. I would love to, actually. I've always wanted to. But yeah, so, and that's, I think things like that will come with experience.
Yeah, I was going to say.
People who are watching, who are starting out, will be like, oh my God, I've never done a deal with someone from Hong Kong before.
Yeah.
8 years ago, I never had, but then over the years, you just learn the experience, and, hopefully you learn from the deal, and you look back and you enjoy the journey, and you see, okay, well, they did that. They didn't like it when I said that. I didn't shake their hand because, a woman from the Middle East, you're not going to shake their hand. You might bow, and then you get a bit of respect because they're like, oh, he knows how our culture is and how we react.
Yes.
But experience is a key thing.
100%.
I didn't know half of that when I started. I didn't know any of that when I started.
Yeah.
But as you do it and you do more deals and you meet more people and you observe and you travel, you become a more rounded person. So it's not just negotiating. I guess it's more life.
Yeah, I agree completely. Yeah. I think not just different people, but the biggest thing for me about being a good negotiator is you have to know exactly what the buyer and the seller's drivers are. And good negotiators are almost be able to build up the building blocks prior to a negotiation by asking the right questions and listening. So many times where you speak to a younger person, you say, what's the art of negotiation? They say, knowing all the comps, like knowing what's sold down the road. And I'm not saying that's a vital part of it. But you need to listen to that buyer. You need to know your buyer. You need to know your seller. What's driving them to move? Is it time frame? Is it tax? Is it location? Is it X, Y, and Z? So many moving parts, because as soon as you know that buyer or seller inside out, when it comes to negotiating, you then play on those main drivers. So someone that wants to do something within the next 4 weeks because of a tax reason, that is then a feather in the bow for the buyer to be able to move quickly. Okay, so you have to dip into knowing that buyer and seller ultimately to then forge that deal and form that deal. And I think it does come into different demographics and stuff as well. Like Benji said, I think his experience throughout the years, you just know what someone's going to come in at. Someone like, if say there's a low ball offer, you kind of understand and you educate your seller then, for example, that look, this is normal. You know, for a seller, for an inexperienced agent who then just goes to a seller and say they're putting a real low ball offer, they turn around and go, fuck off, I'm not going to do it. And the agent turns back around and says, sorry, there's no deal. It's a deal dead. We know to educate the seller to be able to say, look, this is normal. Okay, this is how we need to respond back. And we take the emotion out and we give them the analysis and we give them the data to present it. So again, it's all these small little key things where we know now how to interject at the right moment.
Yeah.
What about you? What I mean, out from a rental side of things, the letting side. Again, obviously that market moves very quickly. When it comes to is it exactly the same? Like again, will certain people lowball? How do you educate that? Is it the same within the lettings market?
Yeah, you get lowball offers. I think. Having done both sales and lettings, I think that with sales, it's harder to part people with money. I think with lettings, in some instances, especially at the higher end, it's almost been like, and you might have a buyer like this as well, with this mentality, but it's almost like it's easier for them to part with their money and treat their wife or their other half to the property for a year or for 6 months or for 18 months or 2 years. Babe, let's go live in Holland Park for a year.
Yeah.
Let's go live in One Hyde Park for a year. Or for 6 months. I've done a year's deal in One Hyde Park and I've done a 6-month deal in One Hyde Park. They actually wanted it for 3 months in One Hyde Park initially. 1 bed, 13,000 a month. And I said, no, you can't rent a property in there for less than 6 months. The head lease doesn't allow it. And they said, okay, let's take it for 6 months. Really wealthy gentleman, billionaire, him and his girlfriend during COVID. So very different mentalities, I think.
Yeah.
And also, do you find when it comes to negotiating, because I'm dealing with at the moment with a rental property.
One more thing, sorry, otherwise I will forget. One more thing as well on that. Today, we're working on a buyer together, aren't we? There's a property that we know about for 15 million. But their budget's 8. And I said, why don't you send to that and see if she can increase her budget? And I think they potentially might.
Yeah.
I think that's my lettings background. You were like, no, it's too much of an increase. With rentals, I find it's very easy to get people up in budgets as well. Their budget usually isn't really their budget.
Yeah.
They'll go from 6,000 a week to £8,500 a week, for instance, quite easily.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting.
And so I'm working on a rental deal at the moment. And what I found was perhaps because the sales market is a lot slower than the rentals market, usually a property should rent when you start viewings within the first 4 to 6 weeks, in theory, from the rental side. Sales side could take 3 months, 6 months, 12 months. I found when it comes to negotiating as the agent, you can be a little bit more hardball on the rental side because there's perhaps fear in the tenants' minds that they might lose it to someone else. And this exact scenario, someone came in with a lowball offer. She thought she was being smart, and someone else just came in 2 days later, offered full asking price. And because I explained to the second tenant, there's an offer already on the table.
Was that the St. John's Wood property?
Yes, and that doesn't really happen in sales a lot. So perhaps, from a rental point of view, it's easier to negotiate because things go a lot quicker.
I also think you don't have to actually say that to the person. I think people know that about rentals.
Yes.
In London, it's just the known thing.
Yeah.
Rentals go quickly, especially if it's a good property.
Yeah.
They're usually people that say it to you, oh, please let me know if there's any other interest. I know things go quickly. Which, I guess it does make the job easier. Yeah. Right, we've got a few to get through and we've got not very long left. Oh, my God. Do you ever play games? In a negotiation, obviously.
I was going to say, I love FIFA.
Playing games.
Let's get short, snappy answers here.
Okay.
We've got a lot to get through.
I don't.
I wouldn't say it is games. I would say I use my brain.
Yeah.
For example, if you have a viewing and they offer very quickly, I might wait a little bit to put the offer forward to the landlord or the seller, because otherwise it comes across as relatively keen. And that's not going to help the negotiation process.
Legally, though, you have 24 hours.
You have 24
to
hours.
present it.
Yeah, 24
Yeah.
hours. I mean, I might wait an extra hour, 2 hours. I might call them and say, the viewing was good. They're thinking about it and then they come back to me.
Yeah.
Is that okay, though? Because you're working for the seller?
I'm working for the seller, but also I'm thinking, right, if I call my client straight away with an offer, they're perhaps going to hold out for a price that maybe the buyer can't afford because they've offered so quickly. And then because I offered so quickly, the owner gets ahead of himself, gets greedy, and then we lose the buyer. So it's about managing expectations, managing emotions. Because if I was selling a property and someone offered within an hour of viewing it, I'm licking my lips.
Do you play games?
I think, like Benji said, it's not games. I think it's tactics. I think, ultimately, when you start negotiating, from the minute that you receive the call to your tone, your body language, the way that you present on an offer, silence. The biggest tip that I've ever said to anybody: silence is like the best thing ever.
Whoever speaks
Don't
first
talk
loses.
too much. Silence is golden when you're negotiating. So I don't think it's games. I think it's tactics. I think Benji's
I like that tactics.
completely right.
Tic-tacs.
Like Benji said, you're almost on the opposite side. You don't want to speak to your seller and then you go back too quickly to the other side, because it's, you give a good amount of time before you speak. But so does everything. It goes from timing to how you speak, silence, the way that you deliver the message, the way that you deliver the data. So I don't think there's games. I wouldn't say it's games. I think it's all tactics. It's all mind tactics.
Yeah,
And
so
tic-tacs.
it's like with football.
Yeah.
The aim is to score a goal.
Yes.
But when the whistle goes to kick off the match,
Yeah.
you don't 11 players just go and just run and try and score a goal.
100%.
There's a formation.
Could you imagine? It's like
There's
playground.
there's a style of play you have.
Yeah.
It might take 90 minutes.
Yeah.
It might take 45 minutes. But the aim is to score a goal.
Yes.
But there are tactics involved. And I think it's the same. So not games, but we're just smart.
Yeah. I think biggest advice again for a lot of younger agents as well is not just the science, but like keep calm. Don't like rush anything. Okay. I found that in the early part of my career, you're so quickly wanting to like speak to you. You're so excited. You've got an offer. You want to tell your client really quickly and blah, blah, blah. And then you don't deliver it the right way. Then you don't give them the correct advice. Then you go back too quickly. And it's like, you might not have managed, squeeze the best price, or you might not have negotiating the best way. Take your time, or speak to other people around you.
Yeah.
Because sometimes ultimately you might not know the seller as well as your colleague does. So again, take your time, strategize, and put the right position in place.
Key skills for negotiating. Go.
I think we've talked loads, haven't we?
3 C's.
No.
Cool, calm, and collected.
Yeah,
That's it.
and prepared. Be prepared.
Yeah, good point.
Preparation, I think, again, is everything. Like when we talk about price per square foot and everything, know your property inside out, know the driver of the buyer and the seller. If you are prepared and you go into battle prepared, you won't lose.
Question number 9 then. How do you prepare for a negotiation? Research and planning? Question mark.
I have all of the terms of the offer ready, whether that's printed out or the email ready on my screen
Right, so this is when you're presenting an offer.
when I'm presenting it, because you don't want to miss out any small fine detail, because I've learnt that every part of the offer form, whether that's timeframes, cash or mortgage, the offer level, the lawyer's details, all of these things, if you get one thing wrong, it can have a detrimental response from the client, whether they go with it or not. So I always prepare and know the offer inside out.
Yeah.
But also I, get the comparables ready. I know we touched on it before, but I would get comparables ready just to, if my client asks me for my opinion, I can give my opinion. And I don't always try on offering, when I put the first offer forward, I try not to make it about me.
Yeah.
I try not to give them my opinion on it. I try to deliver the message and leave it with them. And then if they need to ask me, they can ask me, but I will prep as much as I can.
100%. Yeah, I think that's a big thing. Yeah. One of the others, the other biggest parts of this is closing time frame. I think, Benji, you're 100% right in what you've just said in putting an offer across in the best way. But it's about then having the opportunity to make sure that you close the deal. Because like you said, negotiation is just the first step. Okay, then you've got to be on top of everything else. And when you're negotiating, making sure that buyer has the right lawyer appointed, the right surveyor appointed, the right finance broker appointed, the right currency broker appointed, like tax advisor appointed. You have to have now, as an agent, so many chess pieces in play, ready, because if one part of that jigsaw is not right, the whole deal can go.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to be ready now to, as soon as you agree a deal, you are ready to close it then. And you're armed, you're prepared, like we said before, to know that, okay, everyone's in place, the communication is there, and we can close it quickly, because time's the biggest killer of deals as well.
Mm-hmm.
And knowledge is confidence. So if you know
Massively.
your comps or whatever it is that you're preparing for,
Massively.
you're more confident as well in the negotiation. You're not winging it.
Massively.
Yeah.
I agree, 100%, spot on. I have skipped 7 and 8, just for timing.
I think they could.
Shall I go back? Yeah, okay. Number 7. Do you think school has a role to play in teaching negotiating to our
this is a great
kids,
one.
to the next generation?
This is a great one.
I think
I've got a massive problem with school, so I shouldn't go into this because I'll just rant. Like, school failed me.
I think
so I'm not gonna get
in a
into it.
nutshell, I think school doesn't set people up for life.
No, absolutely
In the
not.
nicest way possible.
Agreed.
I did okay at school. Got my GCSEs, A levels, degree. Geography. What have you learned from geography that you've gone on to use in your life?
Well, you said to travel.
I can Google.
You just said
No, like,
he's right. I know what you mean.
yeah.
Never
things
I
like
don't remember
that.
what I learned in
Yeah.
geography. Like, where
You
is
don't, you don't.
France?
You don't learn that though. Do you learn about
Other,
like tectonic plates and all the rest
chemistry.
of it?
No,
Physics.
that was tectonic plates was something else, wasn't it? That was like
Tectonic
science.
plates was geography.
Yeah.
Was it?
And I learned about earthquakes and all of that stuff. It's important. Don't get
Yes.
me wrong, but I think it's important if someone wants to go down that route. My point being, everyone in life needs to learn how to negotiate.
Yes.
Everyone in life needs to learn how the tax position works, how business works.
Yeah. How to manage money.
ISAs.
Yeah, all of that stuff, and you leave,
Interest
higher education at 18. Some people go into university, some don't, and then you're in the real world, and you're like, wow, like what do I do?
Yeah.
So I do think the education system needs to, teach people
Life skills.
rejection.
Yeah. 100%.
How would you teach that in a school? Everyone line up. I'm going to reject you. Ask me out. I'm the teacher. Ask you on a date.
Rejection and a
Do
dating.
you know what? I think you're completely right. Me and Alex, my missus, have obviously spoken about Alfie at length, and already now
You're going to reject him.
But I think rejection's not a bad thing.
It's a good thing.
It's a good thing.
It's healthy.
It helps thick skin. You learn from your mistakes. You learn from rejection. You get up. You go again. And too many people are princesses and princes.
Yeah.
And they don't know they're in the real world. And as soon as they go out in the real world, and the first person says no to them, they start crying. And it's like, that is the opposite I want.
We get more no's
100%.
than yeses.
Massively.
We probably get 5% yes.
100%.
And it's having that thick skin. So going back to it and not waffling on too much so we can get through the questions, I think school has to play a part in that.
Yes.
Yeah.
I
definitely.
do.
We negotiate every day.
Talking about rejecting, I used to be a broker. That was my first job out of uni. And I used to get hung up on all the time. We had to make like 250 calls a day, 200 calls a day.
Good.
And it got to the point where, because you just want to sift through all the leads and find the good leads. So even when I got like a gatekeeper, as we used to call them, who didn't really want to put us through to the main person to speak to, I would hang up on them faster than they could hang up on me, because I want to get to the next lead. So that's actually doesn't sound very good. But from a broker's point of view,
Such
that
a
was
salesman.
10 years ago. I was like getting hung up on all the time. And you get used to it. You get used to it.
It's got to change.
Yeah, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. It actually means you're getting closer to success.
Definitely.
You're getting closer to the yes.
Definitely.
Right, question number 8. Any role models that taught you negotiating?
I think I said in the first podcast, so if you're watching, go back to the first podcast, take a listen. But my first ever, obviously, job in sales when I was a wee little nipper just out of school, doing membership sales at a gym. And I go back to the sales manager I had at the time there, who literally taught me how to sit across a desk from someone and do a needs analysis, emotional needs analysis, financial needs analysis to overcome every single objection.
Yeah.
So I knew financially how they were set. I knew emotionally how they were set. I could play on those emotions at the right time. If it was a price issue, I knew to say you could take out your 4 coffees a week at £30 and that pays for the gym membership. He taught me sales.
Yeah.
And that's resonated.
If you know someone's pains, you can really, it helps so much selling
needs
them.
analysis, requirement,
needs.
know that.
Yeah.
because then you are fully loaded to overcome everything.
I read a book once, forgot the author's name. It's in my what's going to be my library, Psychology of Selling, and it talks about finding out people's pains or wants or
Yes.
needs, and then using that against them. It sounds really negative,
No, but it's true.
but
Yeah.
as a salesperson,
Well, yeah, I used to say, do you remember what I said in the first podcast? If I made them cry, this sounds bad, but if I knew if they cried that when I was pitching to them to sell a membership.
what would you say? You are fat.
Sorry,
No,
they
no.
were trying to join a gym and they would cry.
Well, look,
You make them
listen,
cry, he just
listen.
said.
Don't forget, look, when
You're fat. You need to join
look,
the gym.
listen,
We're
listen.
We're in.
No, but listen, right? When you join a gym because ultimately you are not happy about either your image,
Yeah.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
probably 80% image, 20% health,
yeah,
correct?
yeah.
So when you're choosing a gym and you're going to see all these gyms and whatnot, and you sit down with me and I kind of get you to that point where I've almost got you to tell me why you are here today. I don't feel good. I've got like a beer belly and like I don't feel good when I'm walking down the beach and like I can't run and play with my little boy for more than 2 minutes. How does that make you feel? I feel awful. Like I know that I've got them to almost like an emotional level where they are so down. They're sitting there like, fuck, but then I know how to build them back up again because this is
Yeah.
why you're here and this is what we've got and this is how
And
I
this
can
is the
help you
solution.
and this is what you're going to be.
And here's the contract.
What an
in 6 months'
emotional
time.
roller coaster.
This is it.
What
So,
an emotional roller coaster.
there was a bad, but that
What
taught me
was-
sales.
What was the question again? Mentor.
Role models that taught you.
Yeah.
Role models. I was quite
Real quick.
fortunate. Real quick. I was very fortunate. The office I worked in at Knight Frank
Jamie Simpson.
was a deal machine, and I always had one ear open. Was always listening to everyone.
Declan Selbo.
That was I learned a lot from Annabelle Colliardis, now Cara Georgis. She is, I would probably say, the best negotiator I've ever come across. I actually dealt with a client who didn't know why they bought the property from her. She was that good. They bought something they didn't want to buy because she was so good at negotiating, and she, I wouldn't say manipulated, but caressed it.
Yeah.
So Annabelle, I would say I learnt a
Good caresser.
lot from. And there's a few things, if you're going to ask for tips at the end, my golden nugget, which I learnt from her, which we'll come to.
Hang up. Is it about hanging up? Okay, sorry. I'm so excited. Right. Yeah. Anyone- my role model? Do you want to ask me what? Okay.
Oh yeah, go on.
Okay.
You're a model. Come on.
Well, I've got to give it says any role models that taught you. The answer to that for me would be Daniel mainly. If I go back many years to when I first started out, I wasn't negotiating very much. It was more of like being a middleman.
Yes.
They'll do this price. Would you do that? Okay. No, they won't do that. What would you do? What's your counter offer? This. Okay. They will do that. Would you do that? Whereas Daniel's taught me way more about that,
Yeah.
which maybe we'll touch upon later or in another podcast. So, number 10, what role does empathy have and how can it be used effectively?
I mean, it's a good question. Look, I think it goes back to what we said about emotions. As a man in the middle, the person trying to put this deal together, there are certain situations which we come across, death, stuff in probate, properties and whatnot,
Death, debt, divorce.
where you have to be empathetic to the situation because actually sometimes that person's not wanting really to sell potentially. So you have to tread very carefully with how you hold their hand,
Of course.
how empathetic you are. You have, as an agent, you have to be a chameleon. You have to read the situation.
A comedian.
A comedian helps too, but you have to be a chameleon. You have to read the situation and the emotions of that other person, and then you change how you are to what their emotions are feeling.
100%.
If they're really excited, you're really excited too. You bring them back down. If they're sad, you have to be empathetic. You don't want to be going, "Oh, great news, Margaret! You know your husband's just died. We've got over the asking price. She don't care."
Yeah.
You have to change your way.
Yeah. And again, if you're dealing with a businessman, he doesn't want empathy.
Yeah.
It's numbers. There's no
Okay.
emotion.
Yep. Yeah.
You know, as you said, you've got to be a chameleon.
Yeah.
You change your tact based on who you're dealing with.
100%.
There's no two people you do just, there's no script.
Yes.
You just have to learn who is in front of you, how they want to be dealt with. I think empathy is important with certain people. It's a very important skill, which, to be emotionally intelligent is,
Yeah, that's a good way. That's
it's
a good way of
hard,
saying it.
Yeah,
definitely. Yeah.
But it depends who you're in front of.
100%.
How can our listeners develop and continuously improve their negotiation skills over time?
So usually with a lot of things in terms of real estate, I would say you can't read a book. You can't learn. It's experience. And I think it's true of that answer as well. However, there's a lot of studies on humans, and humans can be predictable. And I think there is a lot of study about how people interact and how people negotiate. And you can read people, and there is facts, how people are. I think Daniel has studied it. He's very good at reading people.
Who?
Daniel Daggers.
Oh, yes.
And he's read and learned and studied it. I think experience is a key thing because you go through it and then you remember what happened and those sort of things. But I actually think with negotiating, I think it is something you can look into and read.
Yeah.
Because studying people's psyche is something that's available and out there.
So just to clarify, because you said you can't read, but then you said read. So I think it's like heart surgery, isn't it?
Yeah.
You've got to read at uni
it's like
and then actually do it as well.
Yeah.
Maybe watch someone as well first, have a mentor, watch someone do the heart surgery, then you do the next one.
I think it's...
So you don't kill the person.
Yeah. I think it's true, but...
We'll lose the cell.
We've all learned by listening. Benji, you said it in the last question and in your last answer. We've all learned from people. We've listened to people around us.
You have to.
And we go, fuck, that's great. They handled that brilliantly.
Yeah.
That's how then you learn.
Yes. And another thing to add, I'd say try and surround yourself with good people.
Definitely.
And always listen.
Yes.
The younger people in our office, I always say when the senior people in the office who are a bit more experienced, listen.
Yeah.
A lot of them aren't in the office. When we're in a brokerage, you don't have to come to the office. It's a shame, though.
It is
they
a
should
shame.
Be here.
When Annabelle was negotiating on the phone, I would not make phone calls because I would want to wait and listen. And if she went into the back office to then negotiate, I would go in the back and say, "Can I listen?"
Yeah, that's a great tip.
So So just to recap, for the listeners to develop and continuously improve on the negotiation skills, listen to their mentors.
Listen to their mentors. Research.
Yeah.
Trial and fail.
Yeah, 100%
trial and
fail. Just keep going.
Read books. Any books you'd recommend?
I mean, I say that. I'm saying do it.
Yeah.
I haven't done it myself.
Okay.
It is something I'm very interested in looking into as I grow in my career.
Can I recommend a book?
Yeah, go for it, mate. Go on.
Sell or Be Sold, Changed My Life by Grant Cardone before the whole Instagram thing.
And if you use discount code the Three Intrapaneurs 20,
I wish, mate.
We're not sponsored.
Seriously, he changed my life before he was
Really?
massive.
Good though,
Yeah. I was in broke. I wasn't even an estate agent at the time.
He's great.
It's about not thinking of sales.
Yeah.
My whole perception on sales and sleazy salespeople was changed from thinking that to actually you're doing the person a favor.
Yeah.
You're doing them a disservice by them not buying your product.
Yeah.
You're helping them. You're finding out what they actually want and need and like
100%.
and getting it for them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. Final one. We've skipped a lot, but we haven't got much time here. So, top 3 tips on the art of negotiation.
Oh, Jesus. I mean, we've just done like 40 minutes of it. Top 3 tips. Top 3 tips. Always be prepared.
I think as well.
Prepared. So preparation. Research and needs analysis. Key. And I would say cool, calm, collected.
I would say my top 3. 1 is a real key one. Don't lie. Be honest. Because you can, once you open a can of worms about lying, about negotiating, for example, if they offered £1 million and you say they offered 985, but then you go back half an hour later, I've got you another £15,000. I think lying in negotiating, you open a can of worms that I think...
Isn't that fraud?
Well, it's not ethical.
No, I know people that have done that.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. And you then have to keep up with the lie. It's not great. So always in negotiations, be honest.
Yeah.
The second one, kind of using what Ollie said, is you've got to keep emotions out of it. You've got to keep calm. As the agent, as the negotiator, you've got to be that guy that they can turn to and they'll ask your opinion.
Yeah.
And the last one is a very weird one, which I learned from Annabelle, is when the call is not going your way, hang up.
That's a good one.
Because she would be going on, going down this conversation with the client, and she'd be putting forward all her, opinions and advice, and perhaps wouldn't be getting the reaction that she was hoping for. And then the client would be talking, and they'd be going down, and it's all about navigating the conversation in the direction you want it to go.
Yeah.
And when she would get the sense that she was losing control of where the conversation was going,
Yeah.
press red.
Yeah.
Wait 10 seconds, call them back. Really sorry, connection must have been bad.
Oh,
Anyway,
really?
as
Okay, that's
I
a good
was
tip.
saying,
Yeah.
and then she'll pick it back up and go down the path
Yeah.
that
Yeah. I
she
like
wanted
that.
to go.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's weird.
Yeah.
It does work sometimes. Obviously, you can't overuse it and every 2 minutes be hanging up the
Yeah.
phone.
Of course. Yeah.
But that's a weird nugget that
Little
I
nugget.
like
Yeah,
using
yeah.
occasionally.
Yeah.
That someone might
That's a
be able
good
to
one.
use.
Al, what about
Interesting.
yours?
Top 3 tips for negotiating. Number 1 would be read some books. You can't rely on that alone though. So number 2 would be do it. Don't wait. Don't hesitate. You know what they say? If you hesitate, you masturbate. Just do it. Just pick up the phone. The more you negotiate, the more you learn, the more you'll get better at it. Just like riding a bike. You can't read a book on riding a bike. You've got to ride the bike, fall down, pick yourself back up, keep going. Number 3 would be slow down. Like Benji said earlier, if he gets an offer or if he gets an increase in price, just wait, slow down, think about it, strategize.
Yep.
Like Oliver said, or someone said.
Yep.
Just like in a football match, just strategize. Think about what you're going to do. Think about how it's going to play out if you tell your vendor this or your landlord this. What could your comeback be? Once I got a counter offer that was obviously, their offer was obviously not accepted. And I said, do you want the good news or the bad news? Good news is your offer's being rejected. It was like, well, what the fuck? What do you mean? I was like, well, no, I think that was the bad news, sorry. And good news is you can get the property for this price. And I was playing, I was being funny with him. And then we had that relationship anyway, so I wasn't going to lose the relationship with the guy. We had some banter.
Did you close it?
We did. We did the deal in the end.
Nice. Well
We
done.
did the deal. So yeah.
Yeah. Also, there's one other thing which I think is key for a lot of younger people. Always have your client's best interests at heart. Okay. Always think that during that negotiation, you are working for either the buyer or the seller. Only one. You're either on one side of the fence. Always keep the ultimate goal in mind of what your seller or buyer wants.
Commission.
Don't let your own pocket, commission and stuff get in the way of things.
Not the commission, yeah.
Like, always have your client's best interests at heart.
And the commission. Not the commission.
It's a byproduct.
Yeah,
It's a byproduct of success.
I 100% agree.
Yeah, I
It's
agree
super
too.
powerful to make decisions aligned with them, not based off what benefits us. And that is the key to having
That's what an advisor is.
long-lasting relationships
Massively.
and repeat business.
Yep.
That's what we are. I mean, we've touched upon it so many times, but we're relationship-focused business.
Yeah, we're advisors.
We're not
transactional.
transactional.
We're not salesmen. We're advisors.
Yeah.
We're
Exactly.
not agents.
Yeah.
Exactly. We are the 3 Intrapreneurs.
That was good. All for one and one for all. No, I think that was a good place to end, isn't it?
I think so too.
Yeah.
Nice little
Okay, thank you for listening. Do you want to wrap it up? Because I know how badly you like to wrap up the podcast. Go for it.
No, it's okay. Just
No.
I'd like to say, where can we find us?
Yeah.
At Benji.Weinberger.
At Alex_Evagora.
At Oliver.Ingles.
And don't forget to pay the fee. Like, share,
Yeah.
subscribe.
And also
I was going to drop
where's your
that.
script?
our Free
Like,
Entrepreneurs
share,
pod,
subscribe.
our Free Entrepreneurs
Not too
hashtag.
much banter,
What's our handle for the Free Entrepreneurs? The social
At the
at
Three
Instagram?
Entrepreneurs.
Yeah. So
at
come-
the 3 Entrepreneurs.
Subscribe to the
100%.
YouTube channel as well. The YouTube channel is brilliant because you actually get to watch us in the flesh.
Yeah.
Yes.
Not while you're driving, of course.
Because you were going to come
Subscribe to
naked
that.
next time. That's what was going to incentivize people.
Exactly. Next time, if we get over 200 subscribers, I will do the podcast naked.
Please do not subscribe
I've never wanted us to fail so much.
to the jingle.